Okay. So Smackdown, here's the lowdown on Smackdown. Nothing all that important happened. Match-wise, all the matches, it's kind of like Raw yesterday, and I guess it's pretty typical coming out of a pay-per-view that it kind of goes like this. There was a lot of reflection on what happened during the pay-per-view, and it's not that literally nothing happened. It's just it can all be summed up pretty easily, and a lot of the actual match stuff was very similar to what happened on Raw just a couple of days, or just on Monday. So here we go. The same four guys from NXT. Thank goodness it would be the same four and not four entirely new ones if these are going to work out as being like call-ups, like these four are no longer going to be involved in NXT. I'm still not sure that's what's going to happen. And I think that talking about NXT and these four guys is probably going to be the bulk of this video too, just like it was the bulk of the video yesterday. It's just I have a little bit more, there's a little bit more information out on the internet about this stuff today than there was when I made the other video yesterday. So, or at least speculation. Maybe you could call it information. Maybe it literally is only speculation, but I like speculation too. So, so yeah, most of what there is to talk about is going to be not really related to stuff that happened in the ring, just sort of tangentially. So, if you didn't watch Raw and you don't know already, Ricochet, Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa, and Aleister Black all made their debut on Raw on Monday. And then they also made their Smackdown debut on Tuesday. Often with NXT call-ups, we have a tendency to complain that the superstars who are called up are made to look too weak or are underutilized or are just severely kind of hindered. They have their legs cut out from under them. And maybe they would have been better off staying on NXT. That's generally when we gripe about people being called up, what our gripes have a tendency to be about, right? I mean, I think anyway. If that's most of what I see, on Twitter and Facebook, and you hear from people I'm friends with who like wrestling and have a gripe about their favorite NXT dude or dudette being called up and just ruined. So, in fact, I think we can all, just as a quick segue, Ty Dillinger. Isn't that what's happened with him? I mean, I'm not the biggest Ty Dillinger fan, but I know that a lot of people were. A lot of people were. And, I mean, the dude is 38 years old now. That's not young. That's, to put it in perspective, I think that's how old CM Punk is. Yeah. I don't think that's bullshit. He might be 39, CM Punk. Just think about it. CM Punk has accomplished so much as a wrestler to this point in his, life. And Ty Dillinger, I don't think physically is as good or on the mic is as good. I'm not trying to make a direct comparison between the two of them as though Ty Dillinger should have accomplished just as much as CM Punk. But I think that there should be a little bit more to compare between the two of them. I mean, the dude should have been U.S. champion or something by now, right? And he's leaving. Ty Dillinger is leaving because of it. He put out a nice statement thanking all the fans and even thanking the higher ups at WWE. He's not angry. He's not angrily leaving, but he feels he's been underbooked and he needs to go somewhere else, pursue his dreams somewhere else. I think that's unfortunate that WWE are not able to capitalize on making a star on SmackDown of somebody who is a fan favorite, during their time on NXT. That's a failure. Like, I know that it's a different audience that watches the two shows. Well, obviously, there's some crossover, but you know, you could get people who don't really have a, how do I want to put this? Like, there's a lot of dudes out there that are maybe in their 50s or 60s who've, you know, were my age when Hogan was popular. You know what I mean? So, like, it's not like they're like old heads or something like that. Like, that's just how time works. And some of these people might not be the most internet savvy, or maybe don't. I know my old man doesn't believe in something like, well, I already paid for cable, and if they're not going to put it on cable, then I don't need to watch it. He's not going to pay for something like the WWE Network to watch NXT. He doesn't like wrestling anyway. But I'm just saying, like, a guy like him who likes wrestling might have a similar attitude about those sorts of things. And so, you know, I think the NXT audience maybe skews just a little bit younger, even though we've all seen the old lady at NXT shows screaming at Aleister Black. We've all seen that. She might be a plant, but I don't think she is. I think she's just a lady who lives in Florida who likes wrestling. And or did I say yelling at Aleister Black? I meant yelling at Tommaso Ciampa. That's what I meant. So, you know, maybe I guess what my point was, the audience for a cable show is a bit broader. And so it may be a little bit more difficult to get everybody to hit. But Ty Dillinger was a big star in NXT, and he's just been kind of a failure in the WWE, and even he knows it. And, you know, so you worry with the NXT call-ups that they're going to take 4 really important NXT performers, bring them to WWE and like the main shows, and they're just going to ruin NXT and the wrestlers in the process, right? That's my worry. But now, first of all, if that is what's happening, so far these NXT call-ups are 2-0. They're all 2-0. Gargano and Ciampa have been working as a tag team the last 2 nights in the WWE. They're 2-0 against the Raw tag team champions, and then against the Bar. So they beat the Revival and they beat the Bar. You can't argue that that's booking them wrong, right? Because they're the stars of NXT, and maybe some people could even argue that they're booking them too strong. I don't think so, but they certainly aren't giving them the weakening them the way that NXT call-ups often are when they get to WWE. So I guess, you know, you can't be afraid of that. Or, I mean, you can be afraid of it, but there's evidence to suggest that maybe they're going to be doing it a little differently this time. And so that's comforting. But it seems that yesterday, after I did my podcast, NXT put out a statement saying that there was going to be a very special announcement on tonight's episode of NXT. So I'll be eager to see what that is. I have a feeling that we aren't seeing call-ups at this point. We're seeing like a tour of force, like showing like this is what NXT has to offer. They're just as good as the mid-card and championship level talent that you enjoy on the main shows. And guess what? Now NXT is a main show too. And that's really what I think is going to be the big announcement. They've been kind of flirting with bringing some 205 Live guys over to NXT. There's been this, there was the Worlds Collide tournament that involved 205 Live, NXT UK, and NXT. And the winner of that tournament was able to challenge for a belt on any of those 3 shows, not just their home show, but any of those 3 shows. So they're introducing some kind of crosstalk between those 3 shows. Somebody suggested on Twitter, and it's not anybody with any kind of like pull or credibility, it was just a fan, and I just thought it was an interesting suggestion that there ought to be a triples belt, like a 6-man tag belt in the WWE, and that it should travel between NXT 205 Live and if necessary NXT UK, if they have the candidates for it over there, or when they do. But there's a lot of trios between those shows, and arguably, maybe you could involve like Raw and SmackDown too. But I really think that that's what we're getting here. We're getting us, like, Aleister Black defeated Elias on Raw on Monday, and then he defeated Andrade on SmackDown. And the Andrade match was sick. I say that like nothing important happened, and it's because I don't think that there's about to be a feud starting between Andrade and Aleister Black. If you want to see a good match, it was a really good match. That might be the best one. That might be the best one of the 6 matches that have occurred for this group of NXT dudes that are touring around the main roster right now. It was awesome, and Aleister Black hit a black mass, a very dramatic one that hit really well and looked really good, and got the cover after a very athletic display between him and Andrade. And I don't know what else to say about it. It was really good. And you can't argue that they're booking him weekly. He beat Elias, who has been, not booked weekly. He doesn't look weak to me, at least. He always looks like he's a legitimate threat to be dangerous in any match he's involved in. And he beat Andrade, who's awesome. So can't argue they're booking him wrong. I just worry that he's kind of the heart. He's part of these 4 guys are really, really important to NXT and the heart of that show right now. Brandon, who was on the podcast before the last NXT takeover, him and I were talking on Facebook a little bit, and he had told me that he reminded me that when everybody was worried when Samoa Joe and Shinsuke and Finn Balor and all these people left, and part of the beauty of NXT is that there's always more people coming in, and you eventually they become strong personalities too, and the show goes on, and it's always great. And he's right. He mentioned specifically Dominik Dijakovic. I haven't really fallen in love with that dude yet. And not to say anything bad about him, he's got a physique, and he's got a work rate in the ring, and the feast your eyes move is basically the go to sleep. But I don't know if I really buy him as some sort of replacement for Aleister Black or Ricochet or Johnny Gargano. I don't know that. So I'm hopeful that this isn't really a call-up situation at all, and that it's more got to do with showing that NXT is on par with these other brands, and they're going to be the 3rd brand, kind of like ECW was back in the day. I just hope it's I hope that's what's happening anyway. And I feel like there was something else that I wanted to mention. Yeah, okay. So the other thing that was important that happened on SmackDown was there was a 6-man tag match between the Elimination Chamber contestants. Kofi won. Kofi's team won. It was a tag team match, but Kofi got the pin on Daniel Bryan, I think. Doesn't really matter. Uh, Either way, at the end of that, Shane McMahon came out and said that not only would he and The Miz, that's something I forgot to mention that happened earlier in the episode, but really wasn't all that shocking. He and The Miz would be challenging the Usos for their tag belts back at Fastlane. Also at Fastlane, Kofi and Daniel Bryan are going one-on-one, which is a change of plans. Fastlane is in Cleveland, and Cleveland has been getting local advertisements of Daniel Bryan, Randy Orton, and Samoa Joe in a triple threat match for the WWE Championship. And now that's changed. So WWE is listening to us to some degree. They are. However, there are still reports, I'll say, that we're not going to get Kofi Kingston at WrestleMania. That there's plans for the return of an established name. So I don't know, to face Daniel Bryan for the WWE Championship at WrestleMania. Maybe we're thinking Kevin Owens. Seems maybe a little rushed. He's been off TV for a while. He's a big star. It wouldn't shock me if that's what they did. But it kind of upsets me a little bit, though, that apparently Kofi Kingston, who's been in the company for 11 years, is in one of the most over with the, kids, which is kind of, important these days. Tag teams with the New Day. An all-around, nice guy when it comes to, his interactions with fans and stuff like that. Who's held titles with the company, mid-card belts and tag titles, and how is he not established enough? I'm not, and I'm not some huge Kofi Kingston fan. I just get a little bit annoyed with some of what, maybe it's Vince, I don't know who it is. I'm not trying to blame any one person, but I get a little bit annoyed with what WWE thinks we want. Instead of just giving us what we want, they can't always give us what we want. It wouldn't be entertaining TV at a certain point if they always gave us what we wanted, right? That's not how this works, and it shouldn't be how this works. But when a guy gets that kind of reception and people talking online and publications that don't chiefly focus on wrestling, talking about comicbookresources.com was posting about Kofi over and over again over the last week and a half or so. I mean, that might be a good thing to listen to. And I just don't know if they're going to. And I say this wearing my Becky Lynch shirt, where obviously they listen to us. So that's what gives me hope that maybe the reason that the rumor is that Daniel Bryan is planned to face an established veteran of some kind at WrestleMania, a returning veteran of some kind at WrestleMania. Maybe that's because he's going to lose the belt at Fastlane. I know that I sound crazy, and maybe I'm totally stupid for thinking this, but just hear me out for a second. Wouldn't Kofi Kingston look kind of... I think Kofi Kingston sells as many granola belts as Daniel Bryan does. I kind of think that it fits his kind of aesthetic a little bit. That it wouldn't be the big shiny leather one, but he might actually think the hemp one is cooler with the hemp and the wood and all the natural stones and stuff. I can see Kofi wearing that thing, and I think if you think about it, we all probably can, for obvious reasons, And I think they'd sell just as many of them belts at the WrestleMania show with Kofi wearing it as they do Daniel Bryan. And then maybe, just maybe, this established veteran that we're talking about facing Daniel Bryan at WrestleMania is none other than Kurt Angle in a retirement match. Oh, yeah. Ground wrestler versus ground wrestler. Technician versus technician. Master versus master in Kurt Angle's last match. And I know that it's coming off just, like the Ric Flair, Shawn Michaels thing. And I've certainly got that on the brain. I just watched that match. And it's because Ric Flair's 70th birthday is going to be celebrated on Raw next week. And so I was thinking about Ric Flair, and then I was thinking about that match, and I got to watch that match. But hear me out. They've been hinting at Kurt Angle's retirement. Kurt Angle himself has said that the only thing that's missing from his career is one really great retirement match. They're planting the seeds anyway. So why not embrace the similarities between that and the Ric Flair thing? And give me, because like some people are saying it's going to be Drew McIntyre, and that makes sense given the way TV's been booked. But I'd rather see Daniel Bryan and Kurt Angle to end Kurt Angle's career. Two guys with a history of neck problems, two guys with a history of resiliency, two guys that are absolutely believable with their Greco-Roman style wrestling in the ring. Daniel Bryan's certainly capable of a lot of other things in the ring too. And, Kurt Angle is one of the all-time competitors. I just think this would be a great match. I would be so, and like the Drew McIntyre, Kurt Angle thing, like that would be fine, right? But like I would be so jacked up for a Daniel Bryan versus Kurt Angle retirement match at WrestleMania. I would be jacked up for that. And then the WWE Championship would kind of have to be on somebody else for that to be a possibility. Unless they were going to do like a championship or retirement. Maybe that could possibly still be like something they might do if Daniel Bryan does have the title. Is Kurt Angle either gets that championship or he retires. And of course he'll retire. But I kind of think that works just as well if Daniel Bryan, if not better, if Daniel Bryan drops that title to Kofi Kingston. And if they're worried about not selling enough of the enough replicas of the granola belt, then I think Kofi represents it just as well, and arguably is more over with the fans right now. So if he had that as a face at WrestleMania and had to face somebody, Randy Orton would be who I think I would want him to face. I mean, that'd be kind of dope. Anyway, those are my thoughts on SmackDown. Sorry, this was a 25-minute video. I'm gonna see you guys tomorrow, I think, because I'm gonna be watching NXT tonight, and I'm gonna be talking about whatever the hell they got to say. So I'll see you soon.